Beautiful. Well, welcome to Next Level Refs. Almost my namesake, Ben Wilson. Welcome along, Benny.
Hey, Benny. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. And look, as you know, we've started off doing this World Cup series, and I guess I'm lucky enough to know a lot of your story, having been training with you for all those years. But many of the people listening won't know what's gone on in your career. I guess right up to the World Cup, and then post in your head as head of referees in Australia as well. So let's start right back at the beginning. Really good place before we get into you being at your FIFA World Cup in 2006 in Germany. So obviously you're a Canberran. So yeah, take us back to the start. First referees course, when and where and how and why.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Benny. Well, I started refereeing in 1990. I was 15, and I was not a very good player. So the choice was sort of half made for me. I was looking for a bit of pocket money. Started refereeing just in the minis and still playing in the afternoon. And I did a season of that and thought I could probably earn a bit more money if I quit playing and continued the refereeing in the older games later in the afternoon. So I went to a course in the school holidays with a few mates, Hank Tysons and David Owner, who you'd know.
Yeah.
Ran the course for me, and just went from there.
Yeah, and so you started off at your local junior club, and if my memory serves me correctly, that was Bell North.
Correct. Yeah, it's a Bell North boy. So my games involved usually riding down to Giralang, or in later years across to Charnwood, and refereeing there and collecting my money and riding home.
Yeah, and it was cash in hand back those days, wasn't it?
Definitely. Yeah.
Half from each manager.
Yep.
As you ride off on your bike with the coins jingling in your pocket. So yeah, started at 15, and you got into it through your mates and whatever. Now, obviously, how long did you spend in the juniors before you kind of kicked into the seniors here in the ACT?
So I was doing juniors also for probably 3 years or so. Probably in that third year, I was asked to help out running some lines in some Sunday comps. So I was refereeing Saturday afternoon, and Ross Jones asked me to run some lines for him in State League youth games, so that became Sunday mornings. And from there was a pathway to get from, I think they called it a class 3 theory, and then to get to your class 3 full, you have to do a field test, and you have to be 18 to do that. So I remember my 18th birthday was a Saturday, and didn't do anything really. Might have just gone to my mate's house for a couple of hours, went home because I had a field test on the Sunday morning with David Owner. So, and I rocked up there only half an hour before the game, and we hadn't even kicked off, and he was getting into me for not being there 45 minutes before kickoff. So the introduction to senior football was pretty swift, but happy to say I got through that, and it went from there.
Yeah, awesome. Now, I remember doing a local grand final here in Canberra, and there was these whispers about this Ben Williams. No, that's me. Not for the first time we've been wrong.
Number one today.
Tally number one. This Ben Wilson character, who, and you were at the stadium as well. I think you might have been doing one of the later games, and they said, "Oh, and he's on the National Youth League," and I thought, "Oh my God, that's humongous." So I guess that was the next step, going from local Canberra football up to the first taste of National League. Do you want to talk about? And obviously this predates the A-League, so people that maybe don't know about that kind of National Youth League setup, and that'd be awesome if you could take us through that kind of little step in the path.
Yeah, well, I didn't know too much about it. I didn't know there was football in summer, really. I was a cricket player in summer, so I refereed in the winter and then played cricket in the summer. So it was the same year. I was 18 in year 12, heading towards cricket season, and got a phone call to join a national talent pool, I think they called it, which was basically, I think there were 5 of us from Canberra, and that meant that we'd be involved in National Youth League games throughout the summer. And so they were primarily in Canberra. Canberra had an AIS team then, and I think an academy team from ACT. So we refereed in Canberra, and with the National Youth League, we also did some games in Sydney from time to time.
Now, obviously, some of the football products that come out of the AIS, you and I are pretty lucky to see, the absolute production line of, it wasn't so much the women's game back then because they didn't really get a fair crack in terms of the men's, but certainly from the men's side, it was almost the who's who and that golden generation. If I can for a moment, something that just came into mind then was there was a particular send-off when you were back at Bell North that might be a little good story that people might like to hear about. Do you remember the one I'm talking about?
Well, yeah, I assume you're talking about the Joe Simonic one. So Joe Simonic was my first ever red card, and famously he went on to be Graham Poll's red card at the World Cup when he got 3 yellow cards before finally getting sent off. So yeah, I managed to send him off in an under-12 comp for being too old.
What was he, 14 or something?
Yeah. I went to his school and the players said he's too old, and so I was trying to suspend the game. I was refereeing by myself, not much support down there, and said, can we suspend the game or send him off? And someone said, you can send him off. So we sent him off.
And for those who don't know that name, Josip Simonic or Joe Simonic, a local Canberra product, as Ben said, who went on to get a scholarship at the AIS and represent Australia, I think, at the junior age, and then changed his allegiance because Croatia, his family is from Croatia, and went on and captained Croatia. And that very, very famous game at the World Cup, your same World Cup that we'll talk about later, no doubt that will probably come into our conversation. So, all right, so you've got onto this National Youth League competition, and you're probably thinking, all right, some extra games in summer. So you're still playing cricket probably at that stage?
Yeah, that was my last season because the games were, in the evening, and cricket would run up until the same time. So I remember one time playing a game and going pretty well. I think I was 80-odd runs batting and had to get out because I had to go up to the AIS and referee a game. So
that's the story you're sticking to? Or?
Yeah. I'm sticking to that. I would have made 100 otherwise. But, that was, the cricket obviously had to take us, and I was playing 4th grade, so like my soccer, I wasn't a very good cricket player either. So I gave it away, and then for the next 15, 20 years, I had football, summer and winter.
Yeah, awesome. Now, obviously, they were probably out the backfields there at the AIS with the Academy of Sport and the AIS squad as well. But I'm guessing that even if it wasn't in your first season on the NYL, you probably got a couple of games interstate as well. What do you remember about any of those games?
Yeah, it was pretty eye-opening, really. Like I said, I didn't follow the NSL that closely. There wasn't any or very little broadcast of the competition. So going up to places like Marconi and Sydney Olympic or Parramatta Melita to referee a youth league game or a curtain raiser with a National Soccer League game afterwards was quite an eye-opener. And also in those days, the NSL players would use the youth league as almost like a reserve grade comp. So players from the National League coming back from injury would often be playing in the National Youth League. So you got to referee some experienced and some high profile players as a 19, 20-year-old, which was also a good learning experience.
I do remember one particular game at Marconi where you and I were on opposite lines. Of course, back then I was on the far line. You were pretty happy to take AR1. We're running left wings to Lachlan Cotter, and Marconi had Marshall Soper playing. Can you remember that moment?
Yeah, Marshall Soper was playing, and a couple of others as well. I think they were playing Newcastle, and one of the Newcastle first graders was playing on the other side. So, yeah, is that the game Lachlan sent Marshall off?
Yes. So he was I think he was a current Socceroo, or just out of the Socceroos at that stage. Yeah, elbow right in front of me. So yeah,
I was going to say I had nothing to do with it.
It's always on the opposite side of you. Yeah, so a great grounding then, and I guess Canberra in the big scheme of things is a pretty small pond, I guess, and you and I had plenty of trips up the Hume Highway to try and develop our careers over the years, and that was a huge eye opener to see what different levels of football and different clubs and ethnicities and And so what do you really remember about, or what do you remember learning about that? Obviously the eye opener to start with, but what were some of those key?
Yeah, I think the learning, it was really good, and this, you couldn't really underestimate this. But Gordon Dunster, who had just come back from a World Cup, he was the person that we were all looking up to in Canberra. He was on the National Soccer League. We were working our way up. So even if we weren't on matches in Sydney, he would drive us up, and we'd watch the games, even if we weren't on them, and watch him. And then we'd get a debrief from him on the game on the way home. So, 6 hours, maybe every second week, up to Sydney with the World Cup referee sitting in the car talking about his experience and what he did and what he achieved. And then having seen it for ourselves that very night, that was probably a really underrated learning time. Like, you're sitting, as you know, we've traveled a lot up and down the Hume Highway, and you spend a lot of time in the cars, but 6 hours with Gordon Dunster every couple of weeks, we probably learnt more than we realised in those times.
Yeah, for sure. And look, obviously you did quite well on the youth league, and if you'll remember correctly, Gary Power was our boss at that stage, and he kind of had a bit of a rule that you either, after 3 years, you either moved up into the NSL or you moved out. And out was not, you're gone, your career's cactus. It was back to the state leagues to try and, I guess, further develop your skills in being an AR or a referee. So after those couple of years on the National Youth League, so you're on the AR panel initially on the Youth League, and then you went into the middles.
Yep.
And it was then a moment where you had the next step in the career.
Well, firstly, so yeah, you're right. I spent, I think it's 2 years on the Lions, and then 1 year in the middle on the National Youth League. But around that time, I realised that my future was probably as an assistant referee at the next level. I'd seen Gordon do it, so I had a role model, literally a training with me every week, and made a bit of a strategic choice and went, well, there's 2 ARs a game and only 1 ref, so I might double my chances if I choose the AR pathway. So
that was going to be my question. Like, obviously there'll be people that will listen to this too that are kind of, nearing that, and they're probably running lines and refereeing. They may enjoy one rather than the other, or have a leniency to one more than the other. What were some of those really key things that kind of tipped you over the line to go, yep, this is the angle I want to take?
You outrunning me in long distance runs around Canberra didn't help. So I was quicker than you, I think, over 60 or 70 meters, but anything more than that, you're quicker than me. So as an AR, you only got to run 50 meters. So I sort of had the physical sort of direction towards AR, being more quick and agile versus sort of longer endurance stuff. I was attracted to the black and white of being an AR, and I would have worn out remote controls, rewinding and fast forwarding and pausing and freeze framing decisions on my games after a game to see if it's right or wrong. The refereeing career, as you well know, there's a lot of grey areas. There's a lot of managing the people, and sort of a good referee is going to be, you can't necessarily judge it as correct or incorrect. On many cases, it's just a bit of a feel for the game. So the in and out and the black and white, offside, onside, sort of attracted me as well. So all of those things. Plus you coming up behind me, it was a bit easier to head for the flag.
Oh, it's probably the other way around. I was probably breathing a sigh of relief that you did take the flag.
Oh, you were beating me as an AR as well, I think, from memory.
I'll tell Creamy about that one. So obviously then the next level, and again, obviously I know kind of your career through my eyes, but it's really interesting hearing yours. And I remember being at training, and it was kind of nearing the end of the National Youth League season, if I remember correctly. And back then the NSL season had a pre-season tournament called the Johnny Walker Cup. And I remember you coming and telling me, and say, Benny, I've got a line on the Johnny Walker Cup. So tell us about that moment for that next step up in your career.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where I was looking for an opportunity. I knew that was the direction I wanted to take. There were some other people in Canberra that were in front of me as ARs. I'd had a couple of good seasons in the youth league. I'd spoken to Gary Power about wanting to head in that direction. I don't really remember the call or finding out about it. It felt in a way like it was going to happen eventually. So I was just probably more relieved that I'd been given a chance and given an opportunity than anything. Other than I think it was Cosmos, Melbourne Knights. I don't remember the result. Don't remember much about it. I think Paul Wade might have been playing, but
for the Cosmos back then.
Look, it was a comfortable transition. I felt that I would have been 21 years old, refereeing, in the national scene for 3 or 4 years, even at youth league. But I'd done big games at bigger stadiums, so it felt like a natural progression.
And so that's an interesting one too, because, again, there'll be people listening that are kind of trying to take those different steps in their career. And when you get to the next level, whichever next level that is, there's obviously the skills process, but there's the mental capacity around that. So it sounds as though what you're saying there is that you already had that confidence in your ability, and, you believed that you belong there, which is probably half the battle. Is there anything else that was going through your mind as you made that step up?
No, it's probably a fair comment. I was confident in my ability. I was pretty competitive. If referees who are wanting to sort of progress up the ranks don't have a degree of competitiveness, and they're not looking around at what other people are doing well and trying to do things better than them or as well as them, then it's going to be hard to progress past those sort of people. Actually, it probably reminds me of a Gary Power anecdote, and you probably would remember it, or a similar example where he was talking to us about opportunities by living in Canberra versus people who are living in Sydney. And if there's a big game in Sydney, well, you're just going to get some guys from Sydney to referee it if you are the same level. So if you want to get a game in Sydney, you've got to be better than the guys in Sydney, because they're not going to fly or drive someone from Canberra to do a game in Sydney if there's somebody in Sydney that can do the same level performance. And then you extend that and expand that to international football. And why are you going to get a game in Japan or Korea? Why are they going to fly someone from Australia to do that if they can just get someone from Japan or Korea to do it? So again, it was about being competitive and understanding what people were doing well internationally and saying, well, I've got to be better than that, because if I'm just the same as them, I'm probably not going to get the chance. So it was a good piece of advice, and maybe it suited my mentality already of being competitive, but it was important for me to think like that and to always try to be better than the people that I was up against.
Yeah, and I certainly remember those conversations, and I guess even without Gordon in the car, the multiple trips that you and I did up and down, that was that same type of mentality. And I guess you and I, were competitive too in terms of whether it was a beep test or the sprints or whatever. And you obviously have been covered on the short distance for sure, but there was plenty of beep tests where you and I would go, hammer and tongs, and that actually brought the best out of both of us. Is my mentality around that, and I think we're both better for that. So yeah, that always don't give a sucker an even break, and if you want to get to that level, don't be just as good. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that brings us to you being, I guess, included on the NSL panel, not just the pre-season Johnny Walker Cup, and that went pretty successfully until, and you can fill these gaps in too, until I remember being at training. This is not a bad until either, by the way, looking at your face. We were training at the AIS, and Manchester United were coming out to Australia, is one of my memories. And you said to me, "Oh, you're going to go to the Man U game?" And I said, "No, I don't have tickets." I said, "What, did you get tickets? Did you?" And you turned around and said, "I'm bloody on it." And so for me, like, I had great pride in you reaching that Johnny Walker Cup level as that next step, and then seeing you on the NSL was awesome, because I was still fighting and myself trying to get in the middle, but again, not being better than the blokes that were already there, so having to run a few lines to maybe build that experience. For you to then, have the Socceroos versus Manchester United, what was that, 99 maybe? At their height, when the year they won the treble, talk us through that kind of stuff, Benny.
Yeah, that was a bit of a pinch me moment, I think. I thought it was a prank call when I got the phone call at work from Gary for that one. Like you say, we were talking about the game and watching the game, and it was might have only been the week of the game, might have been on the Monday of the game or something. It was pretty short notice.
Yeah.
So yeah, amazing appointment, amazing opportunity. At Stadium Australia, so it's pre-Olympics, so there had hardly been any matches there. They still had the wings on the end of the stadium.
That's right.
86,000 people or 82,000 people there, something like that. And I'm standing next to Bosnich and all his mates from Manchester United, Roy Keane, Dennis Irwin, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, who again, there wasn't much broadcast of Premier League on TV in the 90s, but I knew Manchester United, and I was standing between them and all the boys that I used to referee in the National Youth League from the AIS, like Colosimo Grella and Emerton and stuff. So, amazing performance, amazing opportunity.
I'm sure the performance was pretty good too.
Amazing performance by them. It was probably also, that match was one of the regretful moments for my career when Simon Colosimo got tackled by Andy Cole.
Yeah.
And ruled him out. And it was to my, like, I was watching the offside line, so it wasn't really my line of sight. And the referee missed it as well. And Colosimo got carried off and probably missed a season or two of football, which was not great. So I would have liked to have seen that and acted on that and, helped the referee get out of trouble there, because it was probably put a bit of a sour point, at least from my perspective, on that match.
Yeah, and look, it's funny the things that people remember, right? Now, I reckon if you ask, 99.9% of people about that game, referees or otherwise, they're probably not talking about the Colosimo tackle, but I guess that, sticks with your professionalism around, we just want to get everything right, get the big decisions right. And, I do remember the tackle, but, I think for the moment and that step in your career, I reckon it was, I was certainly hugely proud of you being put onto that level, which kind of is a bit indicative of what kind of happened next. Yeah. So, again, you were talking about phone calls from Gary Power. I remember receiving something late in that year, 99, in the post. And I rang you straight away. So for the people that don't know this story, which is probably most of you, I actually got Benny's first FIFA badges sent to me. And of course, I was like, that's, I'm certainly not even in the ballpark of that. And I'm like, they've wronged Bendis again. So I rang Ben straight away and said, look, mate, I think I might have something of yours here. And I rang Gary just to clarify, and he shut that down very quickly, that it wasn't mine. So tell us about that moment when, via the Williams household, you get your first FIFA badge.
Yeah, I don't know if we'd been told or not, but I remember you ringing me, and I remember knocking on your door probably before we hung up.
And that was on a landline.
Give me my FIFA badge. So yeah, no, that was a goal. Once I sort of made the decision to quit the cricket over summer, and I saw a pathway to international football, and I'd seen what Gordon Dunster had done. That FIFA badge in 2000 was probably the culmination of 3 or 4 years of goal setting and trying to get to that point. So that was a really satisfying moment to get that badge and get that recognition. And then that just leads into setting new goals and putting my focus on the next thing. So it was a good time. I think my first matches with the badge was a Four Nations tournament at Adelaide. So I was probably, I don't remember, but I was probably running lines with Creamy, who would have got his FIFA badge at the same time. That was exciting times for a couple of young 25-year-olds.
Yeah,
not even 25, 24, I think we were.
Yeah, well, that's what I think when they just changed the rules around ARs. Referees had to be 25, but ARs could be 23. So it kind of came in time there. And the Cream you were referring to for the people listening at home is Matthew Cream, and so Ben, Matthew, and I were all at the same nationals together, national talent IDs back at Parkley in '95, where. I guess, Benny, we can proudly look at the photo of all the referees that were at that tournament, and there's been a heap of success stories come through there. And if I remember correctly, there's 5 FIFA badges came out of those 20 referees. So in terms of the production line from, I guess, Gary Power and Barry Such back then and Phil Hafey and the likes, it set us on a really good path. So, right, so we got the FIFA badge off to sunny Adelaide, Creamy's hometown. Oceania, we were still part of Oceania back then, so that was an Oceania tournament.
No, it was I think it was like Korea or China or somebody were playing. It was over summer, under 23s or something. So yeah, it wasn't. I had the first international I had was Australia versus Paraguay, I think, at Brisbane, in June 2000. And then the next week, that was a week before, I went out to Tahiti for a Oceania Nations Cup. So that was my first international tournament in Oceania. I think I did 3 games in 3 weeks in Tahiti. I went with Eddie Lenny and Gary Power, and I went, this is a pretty good lifestyle, this international refereeing gig. I think I might do this for a little while.
So, yeah, obviously got a taste, and whilst maybe the football level wasn't as high as what the rest of your career was in Oceania, it did introduce us to the fact that there's lots of different types of football, lots of different football mentalities, that the game could be kicking along 89 minutes, no worries, and then a double footer comes in. So certainly, it teaches you the old expect the unexpected, lots of different pitches that were, not the same quality as we have in Australia. And again, lots of referees that have been and done lots of great things, but have come from countries that probably aren't as developed in terms of football as Australia. So, that you're obviously on that panel. Lots of these little opportunities starting to kick over. When was the first FIFA tournament?
First FIFA tournament was 2005. So there was a bit of a wait there between a badge in 2000 and a tournament in 2005. So there was some periods of frustration there, sort of waiting for an opportunity. And I saw others get FIFA tournaments in 2003, and I think I said something to Gary about, I just need an opportunity, give me a chance, and I'll show that I'm ready. I actually got a chance in 2003 to spend a month in Qatar with Mark Shield, who'd just come off a World Cup himself. Yep. So that was a good learning experience. And then that's 2003. Fast forward 2005, got the call from Mark actually to join him at the Under-20 World Cup in the Netherlands as part of a trio with himself and Nathan Gibson. And
so it's interesting you say that. So obviously that's when the kind of whole trio scenario, FIFA really kicked into gear. So I've managed so far to talk to a couple of our World Cup referees so far on the men's side. In Chris Bambridge, there was no such thing as a trio back then, and it was pre the assistant referees having their own badge, as well as Eugene and Eddie, that specialised by that stage. But this was your time, 2005, leading into that 2006, where FIFA thought there is a lot of benefit in having a trio, a referee and 2 assistant referees from the same country who know the way they work and communication, etc. Tell us about that moment that you got the call from Shieldsy to say, hey, we're going not just to Tahiti, we're off to Europe for a FIFA tournament.
Yeah, just probably a sense of excitement. I was looking for an opportunity. As you said, the trio policy was new, so that was good to be given an opportunity, but not just for myself, but to go as a team. Being part of Mark Shields' trio was great because he's already been to a World Cup, so he knew a lot of the things and the ways to navigate FIFA and FIFA tournaments and behaviours and expectations and norms and all those sort of things that you and I know now. But going to your first one could be a bit daunting with all these world famous referees wandering around and competing with you for games. So yeah, it was.
Tell us a bit more about that, Benny. Like, obviously, for people that don't, you say, well, the FIFA way, whatever, and like you said, until you're in that environment, it's really difficult to learn that type of stuff. So, when you're talking about the FIFA way, what types of things are we talking about when you rock up to a tournament?
There's so many. From going into the meeting rooms or the debriefs where they've got all the formality of people's lined up with it, your names on your desk, and you're sitting there like that, and ceremonies where a Sepp Blatter or someone comes and everyone's got to welcome him and things like that. FIFA time, a concept where when the training says it's going to start at 9 o'clock, you're at the hotel on the bus and you watch the clock tick over to 9 o'clock and the bus actually leaves. And if you're not on the bus, you sort yourself out to get the training. What else? There's heaps of stuff. The uniforms, you got to wear the same uniform, and it's the Groundhog Day in a way. You get up, you eat. You're wearing white t-shirt today for training, and then you're going to wear the blue polo afternoon for the seminar, and you just live the same day. You eat buffet breakfasts for a month. You have weight control to make sure you're not eating too many donuts, things like that. So. Yeah, it's a totally new environment, team environments as to what we'd experienced in Australia.
Yeah, and look, you've outlined so far, the multitude of steps, in your career that we take, that we try and work hard, and then the next level and the next level, next opportunity. Now you're on the world stage. It's an under-20 FIFA World Cup, which is huge, and I'm sure your mentality wasn't, they're only under-20s, it was this is our opportunity. Probably was the mindset, and like you said, Shields had come off the back of a World Cup already. What were some of those, I guess, lessons that he instilled in yourself and the trio as a team?
Yeah, it's a hard question. I think. Well, so we probably learnt a lot by observation. Like he's the captain of the team, so we would sort of let him lead discussions, know when to speak up, know when to keep your head down. But we would be one of the hardest, if not the hardest, trio at training. We would always be at the front. We would always be putting in 100%. In fitness tests, it would be like a training run for us because Shielded has such a high standard that we were fitter than most of the other people as well. So, it was more of about expectations. That he didn't say you need to do this, but he just did it himself. And if you're going to follow him, you had to keep up. So that was probably a really good one. In terms of a lesson that we took away from the Under-20 World Cup, firstly, we got appointed to a semi-final, Brazil versus Germany. I'm at my first tournament. Go, that's pretty good. He's going, take a photo of the scoreboard. We're never going to get Brazil-Germany again. They don't give Oceania Brazil versus Germany.
For sure.
And I was just along for the ride thinking, how good is this? Okay, we'll take a photo. But the game, it was a semi-final. I think it finished 2-2 at full time.
Yep.
So it's going to extra time. And then I think the first half of extra time, there was a controversial penalty or no penalty, inside, outside, something like that. Yep. And at half time of extra time, we met at the center circle to talk about it. And we started going, I think it was wrong. Oh, we've got it wrong. I thought you were saying it was inside now, but I think it was outside. And so the second half of extra time, our minds were gone because we thought, we've stuffed up a semi-final of the World Cup. We're going home. This is a candidates program. We're not going to the World Cup next year. Turns out, I think we got it right. We did get it right. But the lesson was, let's not talk about mistakes we've made during the game. We can debrief after the game, but now's not the time. So that was a good time to learn that, because if you're going to do that, learn it in Under-20 World Cup. Don't learn it in Germany at the FIFA World Cup. So
that's it.
So he really just led the team, led by example. And it's the same mentality. If we wanted to be better, we wanted to be selected, we needed to be better than the others. We couldn't be the same. So that was our mentality.
Yeah, that's right. And look, you mentioned the candidates program. Now, many of the listeners might not even know what that phrase kind of means. And I'm not sure of numbers for your particular World Cup, but the FIFA select a whole bunch of referees, and now with the trio concept, I know for my World Cup it was 52 referees, and then the assistant referees. And going off the World Cup before me, which was the one after you, I think only 25 or 26 got to whistle. Now, I can't remember how many trios got to whistle at yours. 30 sticks in my head, but it's in that 25. So you've got basically, almost a less than 50% chance of being selected. So, what you're saying there around putting your best foot forward and saying, well, it doesn't matter where we come from. We've got these qualities and we want to go and show you our quality. So that obviously held you guys in good stead. And the fact that you're even talking about these debriefs as a trio, and knowing you three, you've got tremendous respect for each other, and there's a real friendship there that obviously hasn't stopped post Germany as well. So that gives us a great idea, Benny, into those different steps as well. That wasn't the only FIFA tournament you had in the lead up to Germany, no?
Yeah, that's correct. So the candidates program was a new concept, but it was known that, again, I don't know the numbers. It might have been 50 trios were on the candidates program, and you'd get selected for a tournament. And if you perform well, you'd be a good chance for the World Cup. So we went to the under 20 World Cup in June. Came back. I had a full-time job at that stage. Worked for a month or so. Got another phone call saying you've been selected for the under 17 World Cup in Peru in September. Yep. So there's another month off work. So we went to that, performed well there again. And then even after that, there was a World Cup half spot playoff in Trinidad versus Bahrain, which is a crazy appointment for an Australian trio to get a half spot playoff between CONCACAF and Asia. And that went well. So we felt that we had done all that we could to put ourselves in the mix for getting selected in 2006. But yeah, crazy 6 months in 2005 where we spent the best part of 3 months overseas together.
That's it, and certainly not an easy thing to balance with with work, as you said, brand new job, and trying to say, oh, by the way, they're probably happy with you initially. That's great news, and you're off again. Oh, you're off again. Let alone the family side of things. And, I do remember Peru, and a bit of a family thing happened. I think it was the Peruvian tournament with your son.
So we were doing the semi-final again, I think, or maybe a quarterfinal. I think it was semi-final of the under-17 World Cup. And straight after the game, got a phone call from my wife that my son had broken his leg. And he'd done it the day before, but she didn't want to call me until after the match because she knew we had the match on, which was fantastic of her. So of course we were out in northern Peru somewhere. Got myself back to Lima. Someone collected my stuff from the hotel, and straight from the airport, I flew home. So didn't finish the tournament, and it was maybe a disappointment in a way because we were in the final mix for the final. There's only 4 or 5 trios left.
Yep.
But yeah, obviously one of those times where family's got to come first, and got home 24 hours later or however long it takes to get home from Peru.
Yeah. But again, that also highlights the sacrifices, for what's happening to try and achieve goals, and, feeling pretty helpless sometimes being on the other side of the world, and then trying to having to rush back to look after your loved ones. So trying to balance that family and work is certainly not an easy thing. So, and look, I'm glad that you brought up the Trinidad Tobago Bahrain trip. I think I've heard the story that many times. It feels like I was on that trip, but some of the key things I remember you telling me about that you might be able to talk through here is like the travel even just to get to the place, and the Brian Lara story. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, the Brian Lara story. So again, we're a bunch of cricket nerds who just happened to be refereeing a World Cup match in Trinidad, pinching ourselves left, right, and centre. And our guide took us for a bit of a tour of Trinidad, and he took us up this mountain. And there was this one big house at the top of the hill looking over the stadium, the cricket stadium. And he said, "Oh, this is Brian Lara's house." I went, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And we just sort of kicking stones around out the front, walking around looking. And then this car drove up and the electric gates opened up and the liaison officer said, "Oh, I know that guy. That's Richard Lara. It's Brian's brother." And so he went over and had a chat. And the next thing he goes like this, "Come on." And so invited us all in to have a walk around Brian Lara's house. So he wasn't there. He was playing cricket in Canberra, but we were...
Was he really?
Yeah. Prime Minister's 11. We were walking around and he's got all the cabinets as you would expect with paraphernalia in it and mementos and stuff. So we're picking up, Steve Waugh's one day final cap and someone else's cricket bat and we're shadow batting in the corridor like pigs in mud we were. It was an unreal moment.
There was a photo with a bat. Was that his world record 375 bat?
Yeah, it might have been. I don't have that photo. I can't find the photos. I think Matty Breeze was the one with playing the shots. He fancies himself as a bit of a cricketer. So yeah, crazy. Amazing. That trip was amazing all over. Not like the game went really well, which helps.
Yeah.
And I don't think we slept until we got to Venezuela.
And so what was that, up to the States and then into somewhere in Central America and into Venezuela and then back up, or how did that work?
We went into Los Angeles or San Francisco, somewhere like that, then went to Canada somewhere, and then Barbados, and then Trinidad, and then we saw Dwight York, who was playing for Trinidad, and we told him how we got there because he was playing in the A-League at the time.
That's right.
And he went, you've gone the poor man's way. So I don't know how he got there, but I think it was 40 hours door to door. And because on the way back, I think we went Venezuela, States, home. But yeah, it was good times because it's FIFA business class. So happy days.
That's right. You're not crammed back in economy and 63D, are you? Yeah, fantastic. And so, look, obviously those moments, built up to, obviously the goal as a World Cup, 2006 in Germany. Like, there's not too many better places to have a World Cup, other than in Europe and in a football mad country like Germany. So, talk us through the moment that you found out that you three got the nod to go and represent Australia at the FIFA World Cup.
So Shieldsy would usually ring us for news about tournaments or appointments. So he would always start with, what are you doing in June sort of comment. And, you'd say, what are you doing in November? Oh, nothing. You want to go to Trinidad. So it was like, what are you doing in June? Nothing. You want to go to Germany? We're going to the World Cup. So that's how I found out. Shieldsy gave me a call and, just cracked some champagne and ran around the house for a little bit and, started thinking about Germany. Yeah.
And so how far out was that you reckon you got that call? It wasn't the Man U a week before you're off. How much kind of lead in time roughly you reckon you had?
Yeah, I think it was about 3 months. At some point there, we had a pre-tournament workshop in Germany where there was only for the assistant referees. So 3 assistant referees from Australia went. Yeah. And so I don't know if we found out about us going to the World Cup before that or after that. I think we found out before that. And so there was me and Gibbo and then Matt Cream as maybe a reserve assistant referee. So we must have found out about 3 months beforehand. And then I think the pre-tournament workshop was maybe 6 weeks before the World Cup or thereabouts.
Yeah, right. And so obviously that excitement's building. The training, the mentality, if I remember with training, was not to then go, oh, geez, we're going to the World Cup. I better go and absolutely train the house down now and get injured. It was more just maintain the rage and, keep injury free. And then eventually you 3 gents are on a plane and you're touching down in Germany. So talk us through that moment when you arrive in Germany knowing we are going to fulfill our dream at a FIFA World Cup.
Yeah, again, it's pretty exciting. The country, as we've seen with Women's World Cup in Australia, goes really football mad. And, Germany at the best of times is already football fanatics, but just posters around the airport and the welcome sort of place where they welcome you and give you the bags or whatever. It's just all really exciting. And then you get into camp, and there's all the other referees that you've met from the previous tournaments all arriving, and you get your kit with all your stuff. Your room's got all your stuff laid out on your bed, and again, pig in mud is boots and tracksuits and whistles and flags and stuff. So it's been an exciting time there. It was about a week before the tournament, maybe even more, maybe 8 or 9 days before the tournament that we arrived. So quite a lot of build up to the actual World Cup itself, with preparation and training and workshops and meetings and stuff.
And it's a bit of getting your body acclimatized and stuff to people coming from around the world to get ready for whoever's going to be appointed to that first match. So let's move on to that. I guess you waited your turn, and then I'm guessing you were sitting in a classroom when they announced the appointments.
Yeah, so it must have been 3 or 4 days in of some consecutive days of announcing appointments, so we hadn't got a game. Yeah. So we were getting a little bit edgy, I suppose. I think we got match 16, so I think we were the last match of the first round. Okay. So yeah, it seemed like a long wait, but I guess if there was 30 trios, half the squad hadn't had a game either at that point. But it was a relief to get a game. All games are big games at the World Cup. We were off to Munich as our first appointment, and it would have probably been 2 days or 3 days before the game, and so it would have probably been 3 days, I suppose, because then you have a match day -2 training, as you know, and different training for match day -1, and then we would have been on the plane, I think, the night before the game.
So you're based in, where were you
based?
In
Frankfurt.
Based in Frankfurt, and then match in Munich, football mad city as well. And talk us through what you remember about that appointment, Saudi Arabia, Tunisia.
It's funny that the matches themselves, I don't remember too much. I remember the stadium. It was really, Allianz Arena is a fantastic stadium, and driving in, just the crowds, and the police escort. So everybody's knowing somebody important is arriving in the car behind the police car. You've got your tinted windows and whatever, so you get a sense of it. And that stadium, you go down and then you go up you walk up the stairs onto the field, and just the size and the noise and the excitement and everything was, it was great. Like, it was, I don't think it was nerves. I wasn't probably nervous. It was just excitement. And again, confidence that we were prepared and we knew what we were going to do, and we pretty much did it.
Yeah, and I guess that probably also, it's that you talk about that confidence, and that's come through from preparation too, right? With obviously Shieldsy setting a high standard, and you and Gibbo being no slouches and saying, well, yep, we're part of this team, and we're going to keep that high standard, because it's that mentality of, well, the fitness test, it's just another training run. We've done 1,000 of these, as opposed to something to worry about. So walking into Allianz Arena or stadium in Munich for a World Cup match, it's great to be able to not have as much anxiety. A few little butterflies, no doubt, but that just tells you your body's ready to go. And I guess it was also, Benny, at that time where 2006 was the year where Australia moved from Oceania. So all of the qualifying matches that you guys are doing, apart from the ones you've mentioned, are through that part. But then from 2006 start of, we were in Asia. So quite an interesting appointment then to have Saudi Arabia, which by that stage you may very well have done some matches potentially at the start of that year in the Champions League or anything like that with Saudi Arabian teams speaking Arabic, Tunisia speaking a bit of Arabic and French as well. So is there anything particular you remember about that match or that lead up or analysis, etc.?
No, and I maybe speak for myself, because I don't know that Shieldsy was as relaxed as I was about the game, and that's the difference between refereeing and an assistant refereeing, right? Like, if I'm confident I'm going to get black and white decisions right and wrong, the grey decisions, you don't know what's going to happen in a game, and things, especially with some of the Middle Eastern teams, things can go awry quickly if you get something wrong. So I don't remember too much about it. I think I didn't have many big moments in in many of my games at World Cups, but I did have a no flag for an offside in stoppage time of that game.
Yep.
I think it was Tunisia was attacking, and they scored, and the result was 2-2. So it was correct. So no one talks about it, but you get it wrong. It's 2-1. You've changed the result. We probably go home. I remember that, and I was pretty confident that I got it right. And as it turns out, maybe it wasn't as close as what I thought it was at the time, but it was close enough to be a concern. And we as a team got through the game unscathed, and a week later we had another game.
So that was going to be my next question. So there was that second game, and I guess going to a World Cup, too, like you said, you make a big error, that's it, you're out of there. So to get through and have a tight one and it go well and not affect the game and no one talks about it, is a little feather in your cap that you can walk away with. So a week later, you reckon, next appointment, Iran, Angola. Don't know how your Farsi or your Portuguese is going there, but what do you remember about, I guess, getting that appointment to where it was to in the lead up to that one?
Yeah, the debrief of our first game made us feel pretty confident that we were going to get another chance, and so that came relatively quickly. Like, you don't get too many games much closer than 4 or 5 days apart. At a World Cup, 7 days was great. So we had a time for a debrief, a relax, like a match day +2. You have the day off, and probably the appointment came, and we started ramping up again. It was at Leipzig for the second game, which was East Germany, or the old East Germany. So we flew there. I think the game was. I think one of the teams could still make the final if they make the
round of 16.
Round of 16 if they won. But the way the games work, Mexico was playing Portugal immediately before our game in the same group, and because of that result, it basically meant that by the time kickoff came around, the game was a dead rubber, and neither team could progress. So it doesn't change the pressure and the expectations and everything else with countries, watching the games. And as you know, Iran is a pretty interesting country in terms of their football fanaticism. So I think it finished 1-1. Again, nothing controversial or significant to report on. So in many cases, we found that we did as good as we could, because we didn't have big match-changing events or incidents or high-profile things that went right or went wrong. So, in a way, we did what we were expected to do. And 2 games for a trio from Australia, even if we were from Oceania or representing Asia, was probably par. I think we felt like we might have got a chance for a third game, but as you know, these things don't always work out the way you want them. So we did do some further matches as 4th and 5th officials, but for us, that was the end of our on-field appointments. And
we'll certainly get to those too, because I do remember a particular story about one of your further parts of officiating in the tournament. But one thing you touched on between those 2 games was the debrief. Now, people listening, that they might think, is this just the referee coach comes in after the game in the dressing room and says, yep, you got this right, you didn't get that right, blah, 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 blah. It's a little bit different at a FIFA tournament. Do you want to talk us through that process so people, I guess, can feel that, how that kind of is arrived at?
Yeah, so you don't necessarily get any post-match feedback, or you get very little post-match feedback from the referee assessor. The feedback is delivered usually the next day at a meeting with all of the match officials who aren't otherwise traveling for their own matches. So there's probably 60 or 70 or maybe more referees in the room for a debrief. And the main referee instructor will get up and they'll run through a series of incidents and issues from the previous day's games. There were 2 or 3 games a day. So there might have even been 2 days worth of matches to go through by the time people fly home. So it might have been 4 games to go through. And you don't really know what they're going to say or do. Are they going to focus on something from your game that you didn't even know was an issue, that you didn't even know you got wrong? Are they going to focus on some positive things to show other referee teams what they're wanting to see more of? Or are they just going to pick something mundane from your game and focus on somebody else? So you're really going in there not knowing too much about what to expect. And if they highlight one of your issues or incidents from your match, they'll talk about it or they'll show it to the whole crew. And then the referee or the match official that's made the decision has to stand up and explain their decision to everybody. Which is great if you've been highlighted as making a good decision, and then you've got you can give some credit to your teammates or whatever you want. But more often than not, it was a mistake that someone had made, and that they, as much as they would say it's not about criticizing and it's about everybody learning from the mistakes, there was a degree of it was anxiety, I suppose, for people that had to stand up in front of 60 or 70 people and say, "Oh, I made an offside decision that changed the result of a World Cup match and sent a country home," which I didn't have to do, but some people did, I think. So, it's a pretty anxious meeting if you're not sure if you had a good game or not. Luckily, I don't remember anything from our debriefs at the World Cup that raised an eyebrow. Again, we were not that we were under the radar, but we were just doing what was expected of normal matches. We weren't high profile matches with high profile incidents. So we got through unscathed, but equally, even though we were unscathed, we didn't get any more chances.
Yeah. Well, not in the middle as such, but there were some other opportunities you mentioned in terms of, and for people listening, if you don't get an opportunity in the middle, there's the referee becomes a fourth official, and the assistants become reserve assistant referees or fifth officials, if you will. So when you've got your two assistant referees, if you only get one of those opportunities, the AR1 becomes the fifth official. But you guys got a couple of those opportunities, and I guess the next one for yourself was another one of those scoreboard photo moments where we've got Brazil France in the quarterfinal, correct?
Yeah, Brazil France at Frankfurt again, so effectively a home game. We didn't have to travel. I was with the Spanish trio, so Medina and his assistants, and Shieldsy obviously was fourth official. So fifth official, I think, was fairly new at that point. Might have been the first tournament, or definitely the first World Cup where they had a fifth official. So Shieldsy and I were in charge of pitch inspection and checking the equipment in the change rooms before the game. And then the fifth official is basically seen and not heard, or not even seen really after that point. So the four other match officials walk out with the team at the start of the game, and the fifth official just slinks off to the side and has his own little booth, down near the edge of one of the penalty areas. And unless someone gets injured, all I have to do is sit there and watch the game, and an opportunity to watch France and Brazil from the sideline without having any real responsibility other than recording substitutes and goal scorers was a really fantastic experience, actually.
Yeah, and I guess the mentality of that is that should an assistant referee go down, rather than Shieldy have to pick up a flag for the first time in 20 years, that you've got someone that's been trained and ready to go. So, were you had the comms with the team as well? You remember that or not?
I don't know. I think so. Can't remember.
But maybe just listening. I can't remember.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have ability to talk.
Yeah.
I might have. I can't remember. I think I had the comms, but I would have probably had comms, but it was no talking.
That's right, because in the laws of the game at that stage, all of the, I guess, support officials had no
role,
decision-making, capability. That's right. One moment from that game that I remember you talking to me about being in the tunnel, and you've got Henry and all the Brazilian superstars and Zidane and all this type of stuff, and then I remember you telling me about the booth, but there was one other piece of equipment that you did take out into the booth.
Oh, my camera.
Tell me about
that
one.
So I just had the tracksuit, right? So I was able to take I had the camera with me because, as I said, once we did the pitch inspection pre-match, didn't really have much else to do. So I took the camera out to take some photos of the boys, of the refs warming up and whatever else. And so I didn't take it out of my pocket. So when the game started and I sat down in my own little personal booth, I realized I had my camera in my pocket. So I don't know, at some point in the game, I just thought I had Ronaldinho and Zidane near me or something like that. I think Ronaldo was taking a free kick. And so I've got the little camera out. It was those days like a proper camera with film and stuff. And it's an automatic flash, it seems. Took a photo, and the booth lit up like a firecracker had gone off. And the stretcher bearers next to me were all looking around, and I quickly put the camera back in the pocket, and I started looking around as well, going, "Oh, I don't know.
This one.
Yeah, maybe there's lightning or something." But yeah, I only took one photo.
Oh, amazing. And yeah, again, talk about those pinch me moments you were saying, you know, when you're out there rubbing shoulders with those types of players, it kind of, yeah, brings it home as to, well, you know, I deserve my spot here, and you know, this is the stuff I've been dreaming of all these years. Yeah, one of the other things that it's funny because I've got some memories of your World Cup again, like I feel like I was there, but you got a chance to also, if you weren't officiating, you got to go to some of the stadiums, and obviously based in Frankfurt, you'd go to some of those matches as well. I remember one particular story. You went to watch a match, and there was a couple of reasonably high-profile people in the VIP area with you, or maybe even the VVIP.
Oh yeah, it was one of the first games. So England were playing Portugal at Frankfurt, and
some game too.
Yeah, if you're not on the game and it's at your home stadium, we'd all go. So we'd all be in our FIFA suits, and you're in the VIP area, and so you got great seats, and it's a beautiful sunny summer's day in Germany. And about 3 rows behind me was the VVIP, which is very, very important people. Sitting behind me was a young Prince William, and we were in the sort of lounge area of the VIP area when he walked in. So yeah, he pretty much walked straight past us, and I think Gibbo's got a photo of the back of his early balding spot. He was only about 25. We already had a bald spot forming nicely that Gibbo managed to capture.
Yeah, right. That's the potential future king of England. Fantastic.
Correct.
Yeah. Look, mate, what are some of the best memories that you take away from that particular tournament? Because obviously you said, you know, not too many memories of the stuff on the field, but a lot of stuff happens off the field that are just some of those amazing memories that we carry with us, you know, forward. What are some of those for you?
Yeah, so the main memories are all off the field. So the whole experience is something that, you know, I treasure, in that it's a shared experience that we can relive anytime me and Shieldsy and Gibbo catch up. There's so many stories, not just from the World Cup itself, but from that whole period where we were traveling and doing so many tournaments together. So the general experience was fantastic. The post-match at the World Cup, because the games went well, so it was a relief, and so you can enjoy yourself. At our first match in Munich, my parents were there, so I got them VIP tickets. They went watch the game. Post match, they came to our hotel and we had some drinks. My friend who'd come to Frankfurt especially to watch the game as well and catch up with me after the game, was able to catch up, and it's just a really sort of, you know, you're still quite hyped up at midnight or whatever time you get back to the hotel from the whole day and the whole experience, but just to sit there and almost have that sense of satisfaction with your friends and loved ones around you, just having a laugh and a relaxation about, you know, what's just happened, and reliving it is probably the biggest memory. And in terms of best memento, I skipped over the Thierry Henry shirt from that France Brazil game.
Of course you did. Jeez.
So at the end of the game, sometimes the teams would bring you in like a little bag with some stuff in it, like a scarf or a team flag or whatever. And in that France-Brazil game, they just brought in 5 bags and stuck them on the physio's bench or whatever, and everyone just grabbed a bag. And Shieldsy grabbed a bag, and he had a nice little Chinese tea set in his bag, you know, little cups and saucers and stuff. And on my bag, I had a Thierry Henry shirt from the game with the engraved of France, Brazil, and the date and everything. And the result was 1-0 to France, and he'd scored the goal. So
Wow.
I've got his other shirt because you get 2 shirts, I think, at the games. So I'm figuring that the third shirt that is showing on display at the FIFA Museum in Zurich is actually a fake.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh man, that's an amazing story too. And do you put that up at home, or is it in the wardrobe at all? Or
yeah, it's somewhere in the wardrobe, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd fit into it. Pretty skinny guy, Thierry.
I was going to say maybe you should have put that on for tonight.
No, yeah, it's around, but it's probably my most treasured football thing that I've got from my refereeing. Yeah. It's something that says I was there, I was part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, fantastic memories. Look, Benny, only last few little questions as well. And you've taken us on a ride, and like I said, it's felt like I've been there with you, and again relived it again tonight. But you've received lots and lots of, I guess, advice over the years. What's the one real piece of advice that has stuck with you throughout your whole career? And who might that have been from? I know we've spoken a bit about Gary Power early doors, but is there a piece of advice that stuck with you, or might have even popped into your brain when you're at the World Cup that you thought, yeah, right, some of those earlier lessons are paying dividends now?
I've got probably a whole lot of different lessons and advice from people like Gary Power and even Gordon. But maybe in terms of specific technical advice or just specific advice, the two that stick in my mind that I got from Eugene when he was refereeing and I was an assistant referee. And one was fast mind, slow hands. So he'd been to a World Cup as an assistant referee, and that's a really good piece of advice. So it's probably different now in the VAR world, but there was a tendency to see an offside and put your flag up straight away. And the skill was to see it, but think about it, and then put your hand, use your hands to put the flag if it was offside rather than a passive offside, because in those days there was a tendency to flag for anything. So that was a good piece of advice. And the other one he gave me was to pack your boots on carry-on. Yeah.
with for people listening going, okay, why would you do that?
Well, yeah, you luggage, you're traveling overseas internationally, luggage goes missing, and I've had luggage go missing, and you probably have as well. You can borrow a shirt, you can borrow some shorts and find some socks or whatever. If you've got to use the wrong size boots or your shoes don't fit, it's difficult. So I would always, from then on, even on domestic matches, put my boots in my carry-on luggage, and good lesson.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I guess advice backwards. It's probably stuff that because you did go on to become the head of referees in Australia, and implemented a whole heap of things, including professional refereeing and VAR and and the likes over the numerous years you're in that role. There'll be probably a lot of younger referees, maybe some not so younger referees as well, listening to this. What would be some of those bits of advice about riding the highs and lows, showing that persistence that you have over decades really to achieve those games? There's going to be those highs and those lows. What is it that you can share with people that might get people to ride those highs and lows and keep moving forward to achieve whatever goals they have?
Yeah, well, firstly, goals are really important. I had a number of goals, and goal setting is probably a really important part of achieving anything if you're wanting to set your mind to something that's difficult to get to. Probably two pieces of advice. I think the first one is to be open to advice, and to be willing to try, like they probably call it a growth mindset or something these days in psychology. So people that are taking the effort to give you advice because they want to see you get better, take the time to listen to that advice and try it out. If it doesn't work, that's fine, but at least have the respect to listen to them and take the time to listen to what they're trying to do to try to help you. So be open to advice would be the first one. And the other one is probably to stay grounded, not to get too excited by the highs and not to get too depressed by the lows. To try to smooth them out a little bit. You're only as good as your last game, so there's no point getting super excited and super pumped about something from one performance. Equally, an offside that leads to a goal or missing a red card, it's not the end of the world. You're going to bounce back, and life moves on. And like you said with the Man United game, most other people don't remember that. Probably, hopefully, but that was didn't have a FIFA badge at that point. So even though that was a disappointment for me, it didn't stop me from achieving many of my other goals.
Yeah, amazing advice, and maybe that was also part of the cricket mentality for you too. I remember reading a lot of the Steve Waugh Ashes diaries where he talks about exactly what you've talked about, that not allowing yourself to get too high or too low, keeping, obviously you don't want to be dead in the middle and boring, but don't allow the head to get too big, but at the same time, when we've had some failures, which we do, that it's always going to be, there's going to be another day and the sun will come out. So
yeah, just some perspective, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. And look, mate, that's absolutely fantastic advice. And look, again, thanks so much for joining us tonight and reliving some of that. I hope you've enjoyed reliving some of those stories as well and those moments. And it doesn't feel like almost 20 years ago, but we're very proud of what you've done and representing our country, along with your other two compatriots there in Shieldsy and Gibbo as well. And you can sit here and say, yep, I'm a World Cup official, which only very few people get to do. So again, thanks again for joining us tonight, mate. Always good to catch up, and appreciate your time and effort tonight.
Thanks, Benny. All the best.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.